This is Reasonable Faith with Dr. William Lane Craig.
ReasonableFaith.org.
You seem to be making reference to the Euthyphro Dilemma.
Yes.
I've always found that personally a very fascinating dilemma, and I've struggled to see a way out of it. You seem to suggest a third option of some sort was that God is good. It is God's nature.
Mm-hmm.
God's nature is good, and that is where the good flows from.
Yes.
I'm struggling to see how that's different from one of the horns of the dilemma, as you can probably guess.
All right.
Which one it is.
All right.
I'll say it anyway. It's if the dilemma would be something like goodness, God does good. Goodness is what God wills.
Right.
Or God does good because he has some sort of access to a higher standard.
Those are the two horns of the traditional dilemma.
To read from, yeah. So I can't see the difference between the former of those and your situation.
All right, let me speak to that. The question, to repeat again, concerns the so-called Euthyphro Dilemma, which I discussed briefly this evening, but without mentioning the name. It comes from a dialogue by Plato called Euthyphro, where a character in the dialogue is asked by Socrates, is something good because the gods will it, or do the gods will something because it is good? And this is supposed to be a dilemma for anyone who wants to base morality or objective moral values and duties in God. And what I want to suggest is that this is a false dilemma. The two alternatives are that something is good just because God wills it. God arbitrarily wills whatever he does, and that's the good, which seems to make the good arbitrary, doesn't it? The other view is that no, there's a good existing independently of God, and God wills in accordance with the good, so that he follows what the good dictates. Now, when you think about it, this isn't a true dilemma because those aren't contradictories. They don't have the form P or not P. They're not mutually exclusive. There's a third alternative, and that is that God wills something because he is the good. That is to say, his will follows or flows out of as an expression of his own nature, and therefore it's not arbitrary because it reflects the essential nature or properties of God. But neither is the good something independently of God, existing independently of God, to which God is subservient. Rather, God is himself the good. He is the paradigm of goodness. So the answer to the Euthyphro Dilemma is that God wills something because he is good. Moral values are grounded in God himself, and God's commandments are reflections or expressions of that moral nature to us, and therefore not arbitrary. This is a solution that's been proposed by philosophers like William Alston, William Wainwright, Philip Quinn, and quite a number of other contemporary theists. And I think it solves a dilemma entirely. It shows that it's not a true dilemma, there's a third alternative.